Hi, I'm Bill McLeese with the West Virginia Mountain Branch Model Railroad and the Adelberg and Pittsylanta Modular Model Railroad. In this video, I'm going to review and build a kit that's a little different than what you would typically build for your model railroad. It's using a different medium. So a lot of model railroads that I go to visit and or that I go to operate on, I see your standard resin kits, your craftsman wood kits, some scratch building, some kit bashing. But when COVID hit, we, the Harm Group, Hartford Associates for Railroad Modeling, decided that we were going to build some modules and make a modular layout that we can take out to shows. And I figured it was a good time to kind of step out of my comfort zone, try to find something a little different. Instead of using DPM buildings or doing 3D printing and or scratch building, I really wanted to kind of find something that was unique, a little bit different than what you would find anywhere else here in the United States. So I started looking abroad and I found a company that makes laser cut cardboard kits. So today I'm going to walk through how to build one of these laser cut cardboard kits. All right. So the kit that I found is from a company called Metcalfe Models. You may have seen them around. They're becoming more and more popular here in the United States. And I built this kit in N scale, but today we're going to do it in HO or double O scale. So, like I said, these are laser cut kits. They're very easy to build. Everything's pre-scored, pre-cut. And really all you need to build one of these kits is good sharp X-Acto blade or, modeling knife. You'll need some tweezers, relatively small tweezers, because there are windows you need to put in. You might even want to have a pair of very small sprue cutters to cut off any of the corners or rough edges. Yes, it is cardboard, but you can still file it to smooth the edges if you need to. And then the other thing you will want to have, Sharpies in a couple different colors and shades. Um, Now, the majority of these Sharpies, what I'm using these for is to touch up the edges, to paint the awnings, things along those lines. Stuff that just kind of would be normal cardboard color because it is cardboard. So some of it does need some painting done to it or coloring put into it to kind of blend it in and make it look more realistic. So the major colors I use are going to be like my really fine line brown, a wider brown over here, maybe black as well. But I found these S-Note creative, like pastel colors. These guys right here really work great because now I've got like different shades of gray, some green, some light offset, off color green, that when you're trying to color in some of the stonework or bricks, these colors actually come in really handy to have. Now, just like anything else, this is cardboard, right? So you do have to be careful. The markers can run or bleed through across areas where you don't necessarily want the color to bleed through. So that's why you need different diameters and sizes of markers in order to color in those areas. Now, if you don't want to do Sharpies, there's another alternative. Get these out of the way. You can also use things like this, acrylic paint markers. Now, these come in a variety of different colors. They're relatively cheap, and they are truly super fine. You can get them down like this one's a 1 to 6 millimeter tip for smooth writing and really fine line application. Okay, so before I really get digging into this too far and taking all the panels and pieces off of the large cardboard panels, I want to go ahead and start doing some of the edging work and some of the paint work. The first things I want to work on are the main roof, the dormer roofs, the gable roof, as well as the extension roof. This way, when I get done putting them all together, first off, they'll have time to dry. I can paint the undersides of them so that they'll actually, instead of being a gray cardboard when it's done, it'll actually have color to it. Um, Plus, I won't have to worry about it bleeding into other components or anything along those lines after the fact. possibly touching some of the stonework. Because once you've touched the stonework, it is cardboard, it is printed on, but it is not sealed. So if you use a marker on it, it will bleed right into this and you'll never get it out. So all we're going to do is just kind of flip these over. Okay. And even in this, I know it's kind of hard to see, but you can still make out some of the lines and the cut points for the different components on each one of these boards. If I zoom in a little bit, you can actually see them much better. Now you can see the lines down in here where it's already cut. So you can actually line them up and know exactly where you're painting. So the first thing, we'll do the dormer roofs. That's these guys right up here. I'll put this one aside for right now. We'll come back to this. So you all can see what we're doing. We're going to hit this guy right here and this one right here. And what I want to use, I'm actually going to use my Sharpies for this one, especially when you're doing bigger stuff like these panels like this. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of come in on a side angle and just color them in. Basically, you don't have to be perfect about this, as you can see. All I'm trying to do is get some color underneath of it. And you can do this in black, you can do this in gray, you can do this in brown like I'm doing. But all I'm trying to do is just get some color on it so that it doesn't come up cardboard colored after I'm done doing the build out. And don't worry about being perfect because these are under the building. So it's not like you're going to see it right up on top. It's not until you get up close to the building or the structure that you're actually going to recognize that, there's color to the bottom side of these panels. All right, now that we got all of our under sides painted on our roofs, colored in, I should say. Next thing, we're going to go ahead and start cutting pieces out and start assembling this. I do like to start by taking all of the little excess panels out for the windows, the doors that you're not going to need, and things like that. A lot of these are already relatively easy to remove. But if you have one that's being a little stubborn, just take your knife and kind of go across it a few times, just like so. And then you go ahead and pop that out. Just like that. Pop those out. And you go across and do each one of them the same way. Most of these are only held in by a corner, like right here on this corner. So once you cut that corner, the whole piece pops right out nice and easy. Now, let's see. This would be a good one. Let me pull this over to the center. Let's zoom in on that for a minute. Now, you might notice right in this corner down here, there's a little extra cardboard just kind of hanging out, little phrase. Again, this is where a nice sharp blade comes in handy. You can just kind of go along that and kind of file it down a little bit to get rid of that excess fraying of the cardboard. Now, the other thing you'll notice is they'll actually call out cut lines where you need to cut in order to get the panels to come out and or where to score your panels. So just follow the instructions. A lot of this is laid out right on the panels for you. You don't always have to go right off the book. And the other nice thing, since these are already pre-scored, as long as you're putting just moderate pressure down on the cardboard, your blade should just stay right in the groove all the way to the edge. Sometimes the score lines kind of get blended in. Zoom in on this one again. Sometimes your score lines kind of blend in with the lines for the brickwork or the stonework. So just be careful. Again, this is already pre-scored. So when I come in here, I'm just going to kind of find that groove with my blade, lock the blade into the groove, and just kind of work my way down the line. Nice and easy. I'll hit the corner. Sometimes you got to do these 2 or 3 times to get all the way through. And one of the things you also don't want to do is pull. If it's not coming out, don't want to pull too much because this is what can happen when you pull with it. You can actually tear some of the cardboard. Now, the good part about this is because they're already perforated right along the edge here, you don't have to worry about tearing the panels on the front side, so it doesn't damage the finish on them. It'll just tear the back side. Now, what we'll have to do is a little repair work on this when we go put it back together or when we start assembling this. And we'll keep working through each one of these and do the same thing as we work through to get all of our ends and all of our walls put together. Again, do a little movie magic here. I'm going to cut everything out, get it ready to go, and then we'll get back to this. Now, one of the things I will do while I'm taking these panels out, as you can see off to the side over here, I've got a bunch of them that are already cut and set aside. What I will do is, so like this piece right here is what they call the extension. I will make sure I put matching parts with that panel together. So I know that's the roof for the extension. One of the next things you want to do after you've got all your parts cut out and kind of laid out where you want them is to go ahead and start painting or markering the edges. Now, for the roof edges, the roof tiles are relatively like a light and dark gray coloring. So I'm going to go with the gray marker, my gray Sharpie on these. And what I like about these S-Note ones is they're a chisel type tip on these. So when I'm going along the edges, the chisel can actually just ride on the edge for me. It doesn't fall off. And it gives a nice clean transition from the brown that we marker put on the bottom to the gray on the top. And you want to go around all the edges the same way, so it kind of blends in, so you don't have like a harsh white, almost off-white line all the way around. You want to try to blend that gray as much as possible with the actual top side of your roof lines. And you'll want to do that with all of your pieces. So like this just happens to be the chimney portion of it that fits over here. But you can see the edging on this one, again, is kind of light colored. So I'm going to kind of come in here and just kind of darken it up a little bit so that it'll blend in better with the model or with the rest of the building. And one of the things you'll find, what I like about these chisel style markers like this, it'll actually get a groove cut into it. So if I put the tip up here, let's bring the tip down into the view. If you look close, you can actually see that there's actually a kind of a angle or a U shape cut into it already from where I've been using it. Try to color match as best you can with the piece. That way you don't have to worry about, if you make a slip that somebody's going to be able to see it real easily. Now, you may want to go over it like I'm doing this one 2 times. I'm just trying to darken it up a little bit more because this is a relatively light color or light shade of gray. So if I really want that to stand out and blend in more with, the black lines on here and the gray brown brick, I'm going to go over it a little bit darker. The other thing we want to think about, all these edges right down in here, all the folded perforated edges right here, I want to go ahead and do these up as well. So I want to try to get some color down in here so it doesn't stand out as much. Because when I fold it, as you can see right here, let's zoom back in again. So you can actually see that there's no marking in there and it's very light gray and it stands out really bad. But like if you put some color to it and shade it a little bit more, it kind of mutes the fact that there's a straight line here. And one of the other things I'm going to do is use a pencil in a minute. I'm going to kind of come in and add lines to form the edges of the bricks. Okay, now that we got all of our edging done, we got everything colored the way we want it. Next thing I want to do is kind of go in and fill in all the lines where the block kind of go together here. Now I'll zoom in so it's easier for you to see. Basically, the way these are going to work, you can use a pencil. So I'm just using, a mechanical pencil like this. Basically, all I'm going to do is kind of go in here and just put a little mark, just like so, along each one of the lines. That up there. One of the things you'll notice is it's really hard to see any of those markings from the pencil. So if you want them to stand out like all this, the other thing you might want to possibly use is a Sharpie like this, an ultra fine point Sharpie. And now all you need to do is literally just touch it just like this all the way down. And all I'm going to do is just line up with each one of the lines as they correlate across the print. So now when you look at that corner, those blocks kind of go all the way through like they're supposed to. I've already gone ahead and done this side over here, as you can see. Okay, next thing. Now that we've got everything kind of markered, cleaned up, painted in, detailed the way we want it, next thing, let's start putting some of the windows and doors together. One of the neat things about these kits is everything is color coded. So as you can see, like all the main walls, chimney inner wall, front wall, they're all done with like this green color. And that means this door correlates to that door opening. Same thing with the purple, right? So our lavender color. So we got the end wall, we got gable frame door, gable end door frame. Again, the purple door top matches purple panel, yellow for the yellow one over here. Now, the other thing about all these, if you notice, every one of the window openings, every one of the door openings has a white trim around it. And that's because what we're going to do is create the illusion of a multi-level window and or door. So when the door goes in, let's do this one. Let's just set it in here, right? Just try to line it up a little bit. So now what we'll have more depth to this piece because there's actually a ledge on top of this. And then this will actually fit behind here. See if I can slide everything in to kind of give you the idea to generate. So already you can see that the stonework's on the outside. You got the white trim ring on the inside for the window. And then if we were to do the door and overlay that, now we've got like this really nice 3-level panel that gives it some depth and gives it some realism. And yes, the window itself will have the Lexan in the back side of it with the printed cross on it or the crosshairs on it for all of the window frames. And we'll also have curtains to put in each one of those. Let's go ahead and start assembling some of these. We'll do the doors first, get them taken care of. Okay, just to give you an idea of what one of the finished products looks like, here you can see on our gable, that was actually on our extension, you can actually see how I put the door in, you can see the framework around it. So, but that's how it's going to look. And as you can see from the side view, you can see it's just literally layered up right on top of itself, just like so. Next thing I want to dig into is doing the windows behind each one of these panels here. I prefer to do these with scissors. I can make straighter, more even cut lines on them. But whatever works the best for you is what you can use. So if you do want to use your hobby knife to do this, just be careful when you're doing it. Take your time when you're cutting these because you do have to cut through the Lexan. But like I said, I'm going to use my scissors to do another thing. Just keep in mind, don't throw away scrap stuff like this. You can use that for other windows on other projects. So a piece like this can make some really good windows on another project. So hang on to that kind of stuff. And one of the things I have learned about the bay window clash, you really want to be as accurate as possible on the cut right down the middle of these because they really don't give you a whole lot of room to work with when you're putting these into those panels right there. It's very, very tight fit. So now that we have all of our windows cut, the next thing, we'll do one of the bay windows first. So we'll need this panel and one of these bay window pieces. Basically what we're going to do is fold right along the edge of that bay window, dotted line right there. One of the things I've found that helps with this is if I actually fold it over a nice clean straight edge. So if I take my ruler, just like so, line up what I want and literally just fold it right over that edge, just work it along with my thumb, tends to give me a nice clean straight edge across that dotted line. Okay, just like that. Now we won't need it that far folded, but it just makes it that much easier to hold its shape. Again, just line up your dotted line, give it a fold, kind of work your thumb back and forth across the Lexan until it's got a nice clean edge on it, just like that, and give it a pinch. And there you go. Your bay windows are now folded up and ready to be installed inside of the actual panels. Let's go ahead and show how I put these windows in. Touching the acrylic with my fingers, because as you notice, we're not quite lined up dead center where I want it. So while it's still wet, I move this around a little bit, get that centered. So as you see, now we got our windows in that one. Now a lot of times people will take and use a spray on this. I don't really use a spray so much. I actually use it as a dip, just like this. Do the same thing down here. And that way now it's nice and dry. Again, I'm just going to take my glue, pull the panel back, hit this with a little bit of the glue. Nice and light and easy. Spread it around a little bit. Just like that. Just fold this guy right up on top of that. That window set right where we want it. Just like so. And next thing, grab some acrylic or the Instaset. Lay this down. Give it a touch. We have our bay windows put in. Just like that. Okay. We're all good to go. We'll have to do a little trimming on the edges of this. That's where having a nice sharp hobby knife comes in handy. Because now I just kind of come in here and use it along the edge. Cut off the excess that I don't need. Just like so. Now that edge is nice and clean. Do the other side, same way. The next thing I want to do is identify which window frames go to which panels. So I've got my rear wall, rear inner wall, I should say. And to make sure I'm getting the right windows, you can do one of two things. You can go ahead and just match them up, because one nice thing about this kit, all the windows are specific for only one panel. So I know those right there, R1 fits there. I've got a front inner panel here that has my door. So I got F1, which will match that window. So the one I'm going to put in first is the gable end door frame. Now, the problem with this is it already has this door. It's already been glued into it right here. And it's covering up part of where the window frame is going to sit. So when I slide this in, it won't slide over all the way, and I'm not getting, the full view of the window frame inside of the opening. So what I'm going to have to do is trim this edge right off over here to make this where it will actually fit in there nice and clean. But I'm going to just use my scissors here. That way I can control a little better, especially on a small piece like this, how well it's going to fit. And just like that, now I can go ahead and glue that in. It'll be nice and centered and fill the window frame perfectly. Okay, the next step, now that I got all my windows glued in and they're ready to go, we want to go ahead and insert these into the corresponding panels. So when this one's all glued in, it'll end up looking just like that. And again, it gives us that nice three-dimensional, depth that we're looking for to make it look like a real window. Around the panel here. Oh. Again, I'm not using a ton of glue on these. It doesn't take much to put these together. Just keep the glue to the outside edge of it, inside the white ring, just like so. And all I'm going to do is just take this, set it right up into here, center it where I want it, give it a little press, hold it for a couple seconds, and just like that, that panel is now installed. And we're just going to go ahead and do that to each one of the panels that we've built out. Okay, now that we have all of our panels installed and everything's put in place where we want it, the next thing is we need to pick our curtains if we want to put curtains in. You can do that or you can skip it. It all depends on how you want to build your model out. Also, this is a good time if you're going to think about putting a full interior into this building or into this structure. This is the time to start thinking about that as well, because yes, these windows are glazed and open so you can see through them. So if you wanted to put like a second floor in this, put a full detailed interior in it, you could do that now. And also if you want to think about putting lighting in these buildings, you might want to think about where you're going to mount all of that at this point as well, because the next thing we're going to do is start putting all these panels together on the main structures. So in this case, I'm going to put a few curtains in on the lower level. I believe I'm going to do this window right here, these windows over here on this end. I like some color to make it pop a little bit. They give you white, and they give you a lot of the white, but I feel like the white would just blend away in these white framed windows where you wouldn't really see it well. And it might even detract from the windows because of how light the stone is and the white is here. So I want to give it some really good contrast color. The red would work really well. Maybe the brownish, beige color down here would work well. Even the green would probably stand out pretty good. I think I'm actually going to go ahead and go with the red on this one and put those in. So let me get those cut out, and then I'll show you how to install those. Okay, now that we got our rough cut done on our curtains, the next thing we're going to want to do is cut these in half. You don't want to cut these curtain tabs off. All right, the curtain tabs are where you're actually going to use those to glue these into each one of the window frames. But the one thing we do want to do, and I'm going to use my hobby knife for this, is I want to cut each one of these centers out, right? I don't need this white down the middle right here. That's where I want the window to allow light through and have it open. Now, each one of these curtains is not straight. They're kind of wiggly a little bit. So take your time. It is just paper, and just kind of cut along the edge here. You want to try to cut out that white best you can. And it doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. Got one curtain done. Let's cut the second one down the same way. Like I said, these do not have to be perfect. Nope. But make sure you do cut all the way through. There we go. Just like that. All right. So now these curtains are ready to be installed in one of my windows. Let me go ahead and get this one done the same way. So now that we got our curtains cut, the next thing is to go ahead and get them installed. I'm going to put those guys, those two, into this window right here. This is where your tweezers come in handy. Because basically what I want to do, pick these guys off of here, if I can, without stabbing my finger. There we go. And basically what I'm going to do is I can hang this curtain just like this over the windows to make it look like the curtains are partially pulled back. Okay. So again, just a little bit of glue. Just an acrylic across the top. Doesn't need much, just a little dot or two down the side over here in this tab. So take this, tweezers, turn this around a little bit. Go ahead and fold this out. Lay this into place. Slide it over where I want it. A little bit at a time here. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. All I'm trying to do is just partially cover that window up. Tap that down into place. Get that glue to set for me. That way it's holding, and then that way now you can actually see the curtain in the window right there. Okay. We're going to go ahead and do the other ones the same way. All right, so we got our curtains put in. You can actually see the red curtains overlaying in the windows, just like I wanted them. Okay, to kind of give you a heads up where we're at currently, we are literally only to step number 2 over here on the main house. So the next thing we're going to do, we already have all of our windows in, we got our curtains put in, we got everything done, ready to go. The next step is going to be to start building the assembly or putting the whole house together down here on the base. And here's our base right here. So we're going to start popping all these panels out, get them ready to be installed. This is where it starts going pretty quick because this is nothing more than structural support the rest of the way through. So we're going to take this, we're going to wrap this around it. We're going to take these, fold them in half. They get glued to the top of the chimney right here. This piece gets glued to the back of these points right here once it gets put together to give it the support. And then the rest of these are all supports for the rest of these panels. Like this wall right here doesn't have a support yet, but this one does, and this one does. Some of these are roof supports. So we'll go ahead and start getting all this cut out and start assembling everything. Okay, we have all of our panel pieces cut out and ready to go. So now it's a matter of starting the assembly. So let's focus on what we're going to use first. Let's bring this guy right into the middle because this is what this is going to attach to, just like so. Okay, so basically the way this is going to go, we're just going to glue this right in and around, just like so, to the base and continue building out from there. So give me just a minute to get some glue on this and start assembly. Okay, so we got our base glued into place now, all done, ready to go. Nice and even all the way around. Next thing, we got to put some more supports in. That's where this guy comes in. He's going to fit down inside of here, just like so. We're going to glue that in. That's going to support where this wall is split on the back side here. And then we're also going to put this guy up into place up here to create an additional support on the outside for the back section, this piece right here, to fit back here. Okay, one of the panels that's got to go in. So we got our little horseshoe support for the back side of this wall to hold all this together. The next thing I realized was this has a false floor that goes down into place, just like so. So it does actually create that secondary or the second floor effect. Now, this is where you need to be thinking about, if you're going to put lighting in this, you really need to be thinking about drilling the hole and getting everything ready to go for your lighting on the second floor, if that's where you want your lights to go in. Otherwise, you could just put a light in down on the base down here to illuminate the inside of the lower level. So let me go ahead and get this panel glued into place because it does wedge up underneath of this panel and sit on top of the horseshoe support down in the back here. So let me go ahead and get that glued into place, and then we'll go ahead and keep moving. Okay, the next thing we want to do, I've already kind of aligned where all my panels are going to go and how everything's going to finalize on the assembly. However, the one neat thing about these kits is they give you a little flexibility on how you want to finalize or customize the kit to be your own thing, right? So they gave us the bump outs or the bay windows that we can use, which I've gone ahead and finished assembling one of those bay windows right here with the roof on it and everything. So it's ready to go on to the structure. But then they also give you these as well. So if you don't want to use the bay window, you can sub out for one of those, or you can put a bigger outbuilding on the side of it, however you want to do it. I've decided that I'm actually going to use this on the side. So I'm going to use this bay window on this side over here. So let me go ahead and finish up putting this piece on and getting everything done. We got to put one support in. This support has to go up here yet. So I got to glue that on, glue this into place, and then I can go ahead and glue my bay window onto this wall over here. And then we can go ahead and put the roof on, as well as finish up the chimney, put this roof on this side. And then I'll show you what I'm going to do with these extra pieces over here in a little bit. Okay, next thing. Now that we've got our back section of the house on the extension put on and everything's glued into place and it's finalized, the next thing is I don't want to put the roof on yet. The reason why is because, again, I want to use this on here. So this is actually going to kind of fit down into here. And what I'm going to end up having to do is kind of trim this just a little bit to make it work. All right.
So if I take and trim the corner off down inside of here, this will slide over and it'll fit right into place perfectly. So to do that, because of the way these are built, or the way these are made, literally it's just the roof line hanging out over here. So I can actually just use a pair of nips and trim that off. Okay. So all I'm going to do is come right in just like so, cut that just like that, do the same thing on the other end, cut them clean. Now that those are trimmed up, this will fit up in here much better than before. So now it fits within the framework. However, if you notice, the roof line is a little bit too tall, right? So I'm going to have to trim that off as well. So I'm going to bring this down, measure up where I want it to be. Try to get it lined up just right. Now I'm going to come across the back here with my pencil, kind of mark off where I'm going to trim this thing. Put a marking line across it so I know where I need to cut. Okay. So now that I have that, you can see I've got my marked line right here across the back of it. I'll go ahead and trim this off, and that'll line up flush with the top edge of my wall right there. And then we'll be ready, almost ready to install this. So give me just a minute, do a little movie magic, trim that off, and then we'll get back to it. Okay, so we got that all trimmed off. Now it's not exactly perfect, but I'm not super worried about it, because what's going to end up happening is when the roof goes on this portion, it will actually kind of cover some of that for me. Just like that. Okay? So you won't even really see that little bit up there. Now, the one thing I will do, because there is a little bit of a gap on here, I'm going to go ahead and paint this in, use my marker. So they'll blend in better. Basically, that's what that building will look like once completed. Now, one of the other major issues I have with this is when I go to put this bay window section in, if you're looking close, you can still see all the stonework behind. Now, there's one of two options that you could do with this. You could either cut the wall out back in here and open it up so you can see all the way in, or the other option is they actually give you a panel right here, these black bay window blackouts. You can put that in behind there to black it out. I personally would rather cut the wall open so you can actually see through the building, and that way if I ever decide to put an interior into this, I can. Or if I light it up, you'll actually see the lights coming through here as well. So what we're going to do is just kind of get an eyeball on this and get an idea where we're going to cut this out. Okay, so as you can see, we got our opening cut out, and it will fit perfectly behind here, so that if I ever decide to illuminate the inside of this building, you'll actually be able to see all the all the lighting coming through the windows now. Okay, so as you can see, we got the roof on now. We got our bay windows put in place. The wall has been cut, so it's nice and clear through. Next thing, I need to put the chimney up on this side and build it out on the top. So that requires just 2 pieces of cardboard like this to be glued together, and then that stacks up inside of here just like so. And then the chimney itself just kind of comes in and around and wraps around it all to hold it all together, like so. So this is what it's going to look like when it's all said and done. It'll have a nice clean chimney line over here. The top will actually be all glued together nice and tight up top. And then on top of all that, we get these 2 pieces over here. They get stacked up. Those 2 will end up on top of this. And then the roof goes on. And the last 2 pieces for the roof are these guys right here. That one and this one. Zoom in on those. These 2 guys right here are the cupolas for this point and that point right there. Okay, so as you can see, we got our roof all finished. We got the chimney put on and ready to go. We got the little small awning pieces put up and the roof pieces put on that. The back end's done. Everything's finished back here. And like I said, the one nice thing about doing all your pre-work up here, you don't have to worry about going back underneath and touching up or painting anything. It's already done. So everything on here is pretty much done. Now, you could call this a finished product if you'd like. I personally would like to put a little bit of extra trim on this. So I'm going to use these pieces. I kind of like the brown. It stands out really nice. I think I'm going to put that on my cap, ridge caps on each one of my points. And then also, depending on how ornate you want to be, you can actually add additional trim pieces up underneath each one of your awnings or eaves to kind of give it a little bit more flair. The ridge caps, I'm just going to cut these pieces out. They're already pre-scored. Basically, all they are is just double wide ridging, as you can see. So 2 strips. Cut a strip out, lay it over top, fold it down, glue it into place. Do the same thing on each one of the ridge caps all the way up. All right, so one thing about these ridge caps, when you fold them, they are on white paper, so you can see all the white line in the middle of it. Underneath of it's all white. The edging's all white. So again, what you're going to want to do, get your markers out and do a little touch-up work on it. Do the edges, do the undercarriage, and do right down the middle here. And again, you might even want to put your black lines, dot them in as well. Okay, so we got all of our ridge caps on. They're all finished, as you can see, all the way around. Last thing I want to add to this is going up underneath each one of these, putting a trim piece in like this right here. And these are just to give it a little bit of an accent, kind of, you can put them tucked back like that, or you pull them out and away. However you want to do these is up to you. Okay, so we are pretty much finished with the main building now. You're probably thinking, okay, everything's finished, right? Wrong. Again, we've got extra parts left over here. I can actually make an entire additional shed or additional building to go along with this. So when these pieces go together, you can actually have yourself a little shed. So we're going to put this together really quick off camera. All right, for the final product, here's what we ended up with on our little outbuilding, our shed. So it's got sun windows in the top, got a little door on the side, got our bay windows on the one end. Ended up using the trim up here to make the roof tiles there. These go across the roof with a little bit of dust. Same thing with on the sides here, you know, draw some vines in on them and things like that. Started this at 2 o'clock this afternoon. I ended up having to stop and take a 1-hour break for a conference call and got back to it. And here we are. It's right around 7:30. So about 3.5 hours, 4 hours into into both of these buildings. And we got 2 very nicely built little cottages and something you can put onto your layout. And for something that's cheaper than a Craftsman kit that you would buy and kind of piece it all together, this one's already laser cut. It comes with all the windows, and they're, you know, decent little building. Again, my name is Bill McLeese with the West Virginia Mountain Branch Model Railroad, as well as the Adelberg and Pittslana Modular Model Railroad. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing how to put together one of these Metcalfe Models laser cut cardboard kits. If you have any additional questions or you would like to learn more about some of the tools, some of the items that I used while I was building the kit, please feel free to reach out to www.harm-web.org. And I want to thank you for your time.